Hello everyone, I'm Kathy Taylor, Dean for the College of Health Sciences and Nursing here at the Gordon E. Inman College of Health Sciences and Nursing. Excited to be here and be able to introduce one of our newest additions to the Belmont family, Dr. Charlie Apigian, who is the new director for Belmont's Data Collaborative. Excited to welcome you this morning, Charlie.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
So as we get started talking about your new responsibilities and some new opportunities here at Belmont, you want to tell us whatever you want us to know about the Data Collaborative.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad you all have about 10 hours for me to tell you all the great stuff that we're doing here at Belmont. But the real, to nail it down into really two things that we're focusing on with the new Data Collaborative. And the first is internally looking at how can we give everybody the data skills that they need to be successful in their careers. So I'm not looking to change what you're doing. I want to help enhance that with empowering them with data. Hopefully they can tell better stories with the data and then use it in ways so they can make better decisions and hopefully compel others into action. So really, really ambitious to think about the university as a whole when it comes to the use of data. The second then, which really is a complement to providing those data skills, is working on hard projects within the community and taking the data-driven perspective for those. So how can we grab data from publicly available sources or from hospitals or clinics or other aspects or areas in Nashville, Middle Tennessee, or in Tennessee, or anywhere in the United States, and identify opportunities for where there are problems, where there are a lack of resources, and then how can we use data to help first create the story, second, provide the actionable solutions to our partners, ourselves, and anybody else that is wanting to do good in the community. So everything I hope to do when it comes to data is going to be focused on helping our community. We'll start here in Nashville and continue to allow our students to use data for good.
So Charlie, I understand that one of the first projects you're undertaking is hypertension, tackling hypertension in the Nashville, Middle Tennessee area, and that's really a tough nut to crack. We know that heart disease remains the #1 killer in Tennessee and across the country, and so hats off to you for tackling something so big, but it is a tough nut to crack. We've been working on this so long. What makes you think that the data that you're collecting and the work that you're doing will be different and will guide us in a different direction?
That's a great question, and I think first and foremost, if you get people that are passionate about something, you'll figure out the right avenues. And so we have people here in Nashville that have said, you know, we believe there are disparities within our communities, and that was where we started. And so we brought those people together, and as we talked about that, we wanted to focus on the community, not patient care. There's enough people doing patient care. For us to say that we're going to do it differently is not really realistic, or not really changing things around us as we'd want to. So we focus on the community. We identified hypertension as that first step, but what we said is let's stop thinking of let's get data, report it, and then we're done. Let's get data. Let's get experts in the room. Tell the story of what we see. Where are there disparities? Where are there a lack of resources? Where can we see how we can do something at the community level as opposed to at the hospital? Because we want to help the hospitals, help the clinics, help our communities from a different lens. And if that's what we can figure out, and then empower others into actionable solutions. So I think at Belmont, we're not going to be here just to do reporting, just to have cool dashboards with data. It is to take that data, tell a story that can compel others to action, and then finish it all the way through. We do a great job here with service-based stuff. I know your college does so much amazing work. I just want to empower them with the data to help hopefully find out what the key metrics are and be able to measure those and then see their successes through a data lens.
That's really exciting, especially to somebody like me with a public health background. Have been working at this for a really long time, and it impacts so many other chronic conditions that we might be able to intervene much sooner. So lots of us would be really excited about that new story. One of the other areas that you are focusing on that is also equally exciting is working with the students so that our next generation of providers are graduating with some new skills that we might not have offered them in the past. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and it's not that every student has to leave here as a data scientist. What we really want is we want students to leave here thinking differently with data. You know, how can I look at data and not be intimidated by what I see, but see it as a way to help the human aspect of what I also do. So we're not looking to change the bedside manner because you now are looking at data, but what can you do to make it easier? I heard, I'm reading a great book right now, and they're talking about, wouldn't it be great that instead of the 15 minutes that a doctor or a clinician had with somebody, during that time, instead of 13 minutes trying to figure out their problem, they already knew it based on the data, and they could spend that 15 minutes talking to the person, getting to know them. And so again, what can we do with data to make the experience for the patient or the clinician better? And then, of course, better decisions, because I'm sorry I'm a little bit biased, but I always think that decisions are better when you have the data to back it up.
Well, we are in agreement about that, and certainly those are the students we want to graduate. As you think about opportunities that are ahead for our students and possibly for our alumni coming up, offerings that you might be able to put forward with credentials and continuing ed opportunities, we're pretty excited to think about what might be ahead, not just for students, but for the community and for our alumni.
Sure, and so if I say it on camera, does that mean I'm hooked in and I've got to do it at that point?
Well, yes.
Oh, well, then you know what? Then let's go for it. So I believe there's a couple of things that I have found in other industries. You know, I've been mainly in the data side. I have been helping with tech workforce development over the years. And so where I see there is a need, there's different ways to get people ready for those careers. One is, of course, K through 12, and that's important. How do we get kids excited to want to be in these amazing fields? But then once they're here, how do we get them the skills that they need to be career ready? But then what about the people after they've already graduated? And the ones that are already out there doing amazing stuff that says, you know what, I'm somebody that I'd like to get into this whole data thing, or I'd like to embrace not only just data, but the other cutting edge skills that are out there. So what can we do to help people pivot that are already educated, already practicing, and what is that? What we think that could be is, let's start with almost, you know, like a graduate certificate is a great example. How can we give you the fundamentals for data skills, data science, and then how can we then allow you to practice it so that when you go out there using those skills that you just learned, you actually know how to do that. Because everything needs to be taught in a classroom, I think, taught on your own, you need to learn stuff on your own, and then experienced. And so how do we give them the experience? Which is why I'm really excited with the data that we're collecting is going to be a playground for your future students or your current students, because when they do have a project or an idea, they can come to us and we're going to have the data to start with that question or down the road that they're wanting. And if we don't have it yet, we can go get it. And that to me is where we're building out a data warehouse with that data, not just for hypertension, for all aspects that we want to ask tough questions about. Hopefully we at least have a starting point for them to get started.
I love the notion of being able to explore data, to actually do some data mining in ways that we might not have had opportunities for in the past. So that said, exciting opportunities ahead for our students, for alumni, for the community. If you dream and look forward, where would you like to see the Data Collaborative in the most successful space, let's say in 5 years?
Okay, because if you said 10, where I would probably go is, I hope I'm not needed. And I know that sounds weird, but I hope everybody embraces data. And for me not having to scream from the top of the building, data is the most amazing thing that can help really change people's lives. And so it becomes part of it. It's kind of like computers. You go back 20 years ago, we took computer classes. We had people that talked specifically about computer literacy. And now we all just know how to use a computer. At some point, we're going to get to that point where data is embraced, but we're not there yet. So in 5 years, what I hope we have is that we as a collaborative are a collaborative, where we are something that when a certain college needs help, maybe we're leading, maybe we're supporting, or maybe we're just giving some advice too. But in each of those cases, I hope every project, people will think of data from the beginning, and that includes our curriculum. And so embedding that into where the problem solvers that we create in the future are data-driven. That's going to take a lot. And that in 5 years, if we're there, that's going to be great. But that means that we're giving them experiences, we're giving them credentials and badges and other non-traditional ways to show that you have a competency in data, not just a degree. So I think when you add all of it together, it is the experience at Belmont. I hope it looks a little bit different. I hope it's something where, yes, you go to class, yes, you're part of student organizations, but you also experience things, and as part of those experiences, when you're doing good stuff in the community or things here on campus, you've taken a data-informed approach to it as well. And so, that's, I don't even know if that even sounds possible or not. I don't care. Usually when people ask me that question, I say world domination, because I don't have a usual way of stating it other than the fact, and I'm not after world domination, by the way, but I am after people thinking differently, using data as a key metric, I think will become part of what we do here.
Well, I don't think there's any question that it will be different in 5 years,
Yes.
and very different in 10 years. I think one of the places we started with this conversation was around storytelling. I'm wondering if you have tips associated with, other than just a strict reliance on the data, what would be a tip that you would offer some of our folks who are practicing in the community, to our students, to our faculty, as how to really get started with telling a story that is based on data but is meaningful and powerful?
Yeah, and I take that very seriously, to the point where we've actually partnered with a local organization, a local company, Juice Analytics, and their founder and CEO has been talking about data storytelling for 20 years. And now it's become the thing. And he's like, finally, people are listening. So we've actually partnered with them to create what we're calling the data story creative process. So if we're talking about telling a story, there is a process you go through. And in the beginning, you have to identify what your real objectives are. Who is your audience? What data do you have available to you? What capabilities do you have? Is it feasible to get that data? And then you start looking at, if I can get that data, how do I clean it? How do I prep it? And then we think of this as kind of a mountain, and you're trying to scale up the top of a mountain. And when you get to the top of the mountain, that's when you're playing with data and you get all these amazing insights. The problem is, if you go to a top of a mountain, is that where you want to stay, or do you want to come back down to reality at some point? And people stop at insights. And so what ends up happening is you get a report and it's 50 pages of facts and figures and bar charts, and there's no story. And so at that point, you're not done. You're not done at that top of the mountain. You now need to think about, how do I extract the few nuggets that truly are compelling? What story? Is there a person that I can tie a story to? Think about this. If we're talking about people from your college, they have a story that ties to any type of data or insight we would have. Weave that back into it, and then focus on what matters the most to the audience that you're presenting to, and then that's how you craft that story. A story compels action. Insights by themselves do not. And so that's the difference. And so that's got to become the data person as opposed to you. In other words, if I give you 50 pages of insights,
Right.
why am I relying on you to now sift through all of that in the 2 minutes you have to look at it before you move on to your next thing? I need to be one that says to you, hey, here's the 3 things that I see, and here's the story of why it's important. Now give me $2 million if I'm in a company and help me make this program, whatever it is, but the story compels the action, not just the insight. And so that to me is that data story creative process. I mean, we've broke it down into 9 different components, 3 different levels. And for us, we just envision it as this climbing of a mountain and then coming back down the mountain. And at the bottom of that mountain is when you start actually compelling that action.
That is a compelling description associated with finding the golden nugget at the bottom of the mountain, which is a perfect correlation to what we have to do with clinical decision making in all of the health sciences and even in the social welfare world. So I think the analogy is perfect, but excited to think about how we might use the information that you are bringing and the new skills that you are putting forth to enhance our decision making in all of the health sciences and in the social welfare world.
Yeah, and you know that's going to be a lot of trial and error to really figure that out. What I have noticed is when I ask people to help me figure out what they're trying to get after, like we've got a problem, we've got data, and if I say to somebody, "Tell me what you're trying to get out of this," they almost never know. You know, and it's not that they don't have problems, but they don't know what to ask of the data. So it's our job to give them those few nuggets, and that's what the story comes back to. The minute I do that, that's when the aha moment happens, usually for the person that I'm presenting to, and then the questions start coming. So you never know what they're going to be after until you present it back to them a little bit. And again, if you overwhelm them, they're going to get lost. But if you give them just those few nuggets, they'll be like, wait a minute, have you thought about this? I didn't know you could tie these 3 data sets together. I mean, when I think of healthcare or being healthy, I can actually draw polygons around trees and sidewalks and tell you how many clinics are within a specific zip code. And people are always like, you can do that? And so that's when you can spur people to actually figure out the data that I'm giving, how it can be turned into something practical and meaningful for their daily use. And so that process of discovery and exploration is going to be a lot of fun.
Well, I think a lot of fun for all of us. As we sort of draw to a close, I'm curious about any question that I didn't ask you that you really wish I had asked you, a message you would like to make sure everybody understands about sort of the new day and the new data collaborative here at Belmont.
Well, first of all, thank you for taking a few moments to talk to somebody like me, and I'm very excited. I think what is most important to just state is this isn't just me. You know, this is a university that has decided to have a data collaborative, and so whether we're talking about President Jones or any of our 12, soon to be 13 deans of colleges, down to every faculty member, it is amazing to see the excitement, and it's genuine, and that's not just genuine, but the type of stuff that we plan to do is going to be a lot of times service-based for our community. That's the kind of faculty we have here. It's not a surprise, but it's been the best delight that I've had, is meeting the faculty and staff, and of course our students that are just wanting to do good, and that to me is the perfect recipe for what we want to do here at Belmont. And I think Belmont can be, as we now say on campus, a radical champion, not just for data, but also for change in communities. And I think it needs to be a university. And I think Belmont's kind of set up for that. So the most important thing that I have seen is this isn't students coming here and they have to find me. They don't have to. It's going to be here through our faculty, through our staff, and then through our senior leadership. So that to me is the most exciting part.
So Charlie, I think the entire world is dealing with some level of confusion about data interpretation and reliability. And I like to think that here at Belmont, we really focus on ethics and truth. how will the data collaborative approach helping people come to rely and depend on the information that we generate?
Wow, that's a great question, and I think you said something that is incredibly important in that Belmont has to lead a discussion. So not only are we going to focus on data skills for all, working on amazing opportunities within the community, but we probably need to be a thought leader as well, because it's hard to ask companies to be the leaders in ethics, because it's hard to trust that it's that there's not some other motive there. But Belmont can be trusted. Belmont is a trusted source here in Nashville, and we need to be the thought leader. And I think the one area, I'm going to even change a little bit, because I don't just think of ethics, I also think of diversity, equity, and inclusion as part of that. Absolutely. Because too much of our data is skewed in one way or the other, and a lot of times it has an issue when it comes to diversity as well. So how can we have those hard discussions? I firmly expect us to have summits in the future about ethics. Already talking to a couple of groups in town where we can bring in some leaders, and they've asked for our help and us to lead that, and hopefully it's in our new building that's coming in the near future, where we have those kind of summits and hard conversations. We actually teach data ethics as a course. Professor Scott Hawley is the one that has been teaching it. It's now being offered in 4 different programs here on campus. And he's taught it twice so far, and he keeps having other people that want to add it to their curriculum. Those conversations are happening, and I'll tell you, the students, and hearing their conversations about it, they get it. Now we need to just help empower them to have a voice for it.
It's really exciting to think about the fact that we are even looking at the way we ask the questions and how we record the answers are contributing to new models and new ways of thinking. So yet again, exciting times. We're really, really delighted to have you here at Belmont. Welcome, and can't wait to see what is ahead.
Oh, well, thank you again. I'm excited to meet a lot of your alumni, a lot of your current students. Already met a lot of them, and can't wait to just keep learning more about Belmont and seeing how we can change our community, change our lives, but most important, continue to make data part of the conversation here.
Exciting stuff. Thank you, Charlie.